I got us out of the situation in Cuba without a war, and that made the people who owned me very, very upset. But I stayed friends with the Kennedys, and they were just terrific people. And I think I got a lot of my thinking from Joe Kennedy, the senior, the father. He was a truly extraordinary man. And then when Bobby ran for president, I was an advisor, and I was his campaign. I ran his campaign. He had a campaign manager, but every time I would tell Bobby to do something or say something, and then we'd work on how he would say it, he would go up in the polls until he finally. I kept saying, you know what, Bob, you have to say world peace. I was 15, so we got to hand it to him for listening to a kid once again. And I just kept saying to him, what you want to say is what your goal is going to be, is world peace. And he said, it's impossible. And I said, no, it's not impossible. If everybody wants world peace, we'll have world peace, because how would we have a war if nobody wanted it? You know, what if they ran a war and nobody came? That was mine. Anyway, the peace signs, mine. The circle with the 4 lines, mine. So finally, Bobby went against his campaign manager. Kept saying that would be suicide. It would be political suicide for you to use the words world peace. And I just kept working on him, and I really thought that Bobby would be able to do it. He was smart and funny and real personable, and certainly good looking enough. But he finally listened to me, and he used. We had written up this really great speech, and he said it. He said he wanted to run the country in a way that we would end up having world peace. And the next day they did a poll, and he had a 95% approval rating worldwide. So 95% of the world wants world peace. That's my take on what happened. And he really did seem like he'd be able to do it. And that's why he got killed. That's why Jack Kennedy, JFK, got killed. Because with my advice, things kept going really well. We had accords, peace accords with a few countries. We didn't have the war with Russia. We did. I remember working on some peace accords with different countries. I was very tall, so by the time I was 8 or 9, I was probably 4'11". So they just thought I was short. And I guess I didn't present myself as a kid. But so he was working toward world peace as well. And of course, he was trying to get equality for what we called the Negroes, and the people who run the world, the Satanists. They don't want that. They don't like black people. They don't like anybody that's not white. And their reasoning is, this will floor you. The first people on Earth were black, and so there's the story of it in the conversation. You might want to read it, but once people started to migrate north, and they would breed themselves, the people who were turned against God, started to move north, and they started to breed themselves whiter and whiter because they decided they hated God, and they wanted to be the furthest thing from God's creation, which was black. So that's why they don't like black people. And that's a hell of a reason, right? So they feel that also they felt that Christ was black, and again didn't like God. So they didn't want people to know Christ was black. That would change the way people thought about black people. So they started in probably the 1200s, when there was oil paints. They started painting images of Christ as a white man, a white European, and he wasn't even born in Europe. And destroying all the artifacts that say that Christ was black or show Christ as a black man. So, then, yeah, I was helping Bobby with his campaign. Bobby fired his campaign manager, and so I was the campaign manager for Bobby Kennedy when I was 15. And my goal has always been world peace. And I got a dry mouth. So, and the hatred that the cult had for me was kept growing. And they kept erasing my memory every time I get close to world peace. Then when they killed Bobby, then Joe, he found out, oh, Bobby had proposed to me the night he won the California primary. And he said he wanted to wait until after he won the primary to propose because he wanted to make sure that he was good enough for me. I thought he was the bee's knees. I thought he was great. So I never thought, I never in a million years would have thought he wasn't good enough for me. So, but that was his and his father's idea. So, but then when I talked to Joe that night, I said, you know, I'm only 15, so we wouldn't be able to get married. He wanted us to get married right away, and I said, it's not even legal. He said, I had no idea you were that young. So how old were you when you were advising Jack? And I told him, and he said, geez, how is that possible? I said, I don't know. Anyway, so then of course they took Bobby away. They wouldn't let Joe near me, and tried to kill me a few times after that. A few times. They tried to slit my throat, but I knew about it, so I dulled the knife to the point where they did cut my throat, but it wasn't deep enough to hit any veins. It certainly wasn't deep enough to cut my head off. And then when that didn't work, they sold me to a French vineyard and kept me as a slave. And when I was almost dead, I was completely emaciated. I think I was down to 60 pounds. And I was so emaciated, and I escaped and got to the police station, and it took a while to get them to investigate. Finally, you know, I told them I was being kept prisoner and made to work, and they thought I was black because I was never allowed to take a shower. So they weren't listening to me, which shows that people are so closed-minded and judgmental that they weren't going to listen to me. And finally, I told them that they put formaldehyde in the wine, And that's when the police decided they would go and investigate. And it turned out these people would steal children or buy children, and they would work them to death and then get another one and work that one to death. And I think they had killed 300 children. And when I put a stop to it and they went to jail, that was the end of satanic cults in France. And the French people were very, very pleased that I did that for them. They felt I got people to tell me that that was better than Joan of Arc or anybody else had done for France what I did. But of course that got I got taken away and nobody saw me again there. Then I would always write songs about peace. We had Woodstock, and that the main focus of that was peace, love, and understanding, and all this. I had the way we got Woodstock together was I had written songs with all the people, and I had worked with all of the bands that were in Woodstock, and that's how we got them together to do that. And it went off great. You know, a couple people got bad acid, but other than that, there was nothing bad. The only thing, once it was going on for more than a day, people were finding ways in. It had been sold out, and they were coming in through the woods, and somebody beat up somebody who paid beat up somebody who was sneaking in. And so they asked me what to do, and I said, well, you have to make it a free concert. You know, the tickets are already sold. We can't sell any more anyway. We can't stop people from coming in. We don't have the security or the manpower or anything. It had rained, so a lot of people had left. So there really was room. So we